right, the National Assembly is holding a debate on the rising fuel prices. Let's take you live to that.
Essentially, for the ANC government, road users are easy prey to tax hard and tax often. But South Africa has reached the end of its tether with this daylight robbery. Yesterday, the DA handed over a petition to the Ministers of Finance and Energy, calling on them to implement the proposals that the DA has been putting forward to address the skyrocketing fuel price. Our petition gathered more than 130,000 signatures and comments online, making it one of the largest ever submitted to Parliament. Signatories had the chance to leave personal messages as they pledged support for this debate and for the demand to slash fuel prices. And just a few comments illustrate the general sentiment. Dean Boy said, "Let's stop the fuel tax rip-off. It is time for government to cut the exorbitant taxes on fuel in order to lower the price. People are suffering due to the costs of living." Yezdi Piroz stated, "Government must stop burdening the fuel prices with their taxes." And Selo Kumako noted, "The ANC government must cut exorbitant taxes on fuel. If not, the poorest will suffer more on food and other basic materials." So the DA hereby formally tables our simple, practical, and implementable proposals to slash fuel prices. For starters, let's get rid of the R3.93 general fuel levy because it has nothing to do with fuel. It is just difficult to avoid and easy to collect. That money goes straight into the Treasury and adds about 90 billion rand to the big pot of money that funds corruption and mismanagement. If we scrap that, government will be forced to be more frugal in their expenditure. Perhaps we can get rid of 22 million rand flagpoles, 350 million rand donations to Cuba, inflated contracts, captured entities, a bloated cabinet, expensive ministers and deputies, and all the other unnecessary and frivolous expenses. Maybe we can cut the 1.8 billion rand spent on VIP protection for ministers who drive around in fancy vehicles at taxpayer expense and don't feel the effects of a fuel price increase. It is estimated that this government loses 300 billion rand a year to corruption. That amount can cover the 90 billion rand collected annually by the general fuel levy more than 3 times over. The second thing we must do is reform the Road Accident Fund levy. The RAF is a cesspool of mismanagement, and every litre of fuel purchased is paying for that. Our demand is that the R2.18 RAF levy be cut for all road users who can prove that they have valid, comprehensive third-party insurance. Stop forcing them to pay for insurance twice. Instead, give them a tax rebate through SARS, claimable on their annual tax returns on their fuel purchases. Those 2 steps would cut R6.11 per litre. But the DA's comprehensive plan doesn't end there. The third thing we must do is deregulate our fuel sector. Maybe another quote from the ANC's own mouth will help. Government intends to move away from price control on fuel with the achievement of sustainable transitional milestones and arrangement. Control of industry margins at wholesale and retail level will be removed and thereafter determined on a competitive and commercial basis. This quote comes from the 1998 White Paper on Energy under this ANC government 24 years ago. If the ANC fails to implement this, as it has, we will do it for them. The DA will shortly be introducing a private members bill to amend Section 2 of the Petroleum Products Act. Now, the purpose of this bill is to deregulate the fuel sector to increase competition, both at wholesale and retail level. Let fuel retailers and fuel stations compete on price, subject only to a maximum regulated price and thereby driving prices down. And before anyone suggests that this is going to result in job losses for pump attendants, please note that we are not proposing to amend that section of the Act which prohibits self-service outlets. Speaker, this is not a DA fight, but the fight of every South African. The DA is very proud to announce that we have the support of key role players from various sectors in our proposals: long-distance freight and logistics providers, truckers, a number of individual truck owners and fleet truck operators, the touring and transfer bus sector, aviation entities, the intercity bus sector, and the taxi industry. Failing to act on our proposals will be a slap in all their faces. That is why we call on all parties represented here to join these sectors, which form the foundation of our economy, and the more than 130,000 people who have signed our petition to support our proposals to reduce the price. Let's stop feeding the beast of ANC corruption with unaffordable fuel taxes. Slash fuel prices now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Lozipo.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. The ANC government, I'm not sure whether I should say ANC government, because I was told that it's a government of the people, which means the government of the ANC is a government of the people. The ANC government is faced with daunting challenges, complex, but at the same time, very much demanding in dealing with the current oil price shock. And therefore, the debate on fuel price hike is certainly important, not because the honorable member, Honorable Milem, has called for it, but due to its importance for the poor motorist, the household, as well as small enterprises who face serious hardship in the daily increase in cost during this difficult period. I must say, Honorable Speaker, it is important just to borrow from Thomas Sowell, a liberal American economist, who says, I quote, "Politics is the art of making your selfish desires seemed to be national interest," close quote. It is quite important that when we deal with a sensitive matter and a serious matter of this nature, we also try and not use it as a matter of a political football. But thanks to Honorable Milem, because I believe it's genuine with what is presented to the House. Honorable Speaker, it is very important that when we deal with this, we start from the premise that I'm not sure whether we're not offside. The Committee on Mineral Resources and Energy started engaging on this matter as early as April 14, 2021, on a briefing by the Automobile Association of South Africa, as well as the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. Having done consultation with most of the stakeholders, informed by the fact that by virtue of being members of Parliament, it does not grant us an authority of possessing natural wisdom to the challenges facing our communities and our people. It is therefore on those bases that we wanted to ensure that every process that we go through, it is a process that is consultative enough that stakeholders will be able to make ownership. It was therefore the report adopted on the 10th of April. As of the 7th of June, the committee started to work on action plans, including consultations and meetings with the Portfolio Committee on Finance. Simple because the issue of fuel prices, it must be understood in the context that it has got overlapping mandates. It affects transport, it also based on tax determination by the National Treasury. So I think it's important that we start from that point. I must use this platform for a good and a necessary lobbying that will request that the report of the Portfolio Committee by the NAPC be prioritized so that it can find its way through to this House, including its observations and recommendations, be debated as a platform that I would say it addresses the need for every party to feel that it has made a contribution. I think that is the first point that one would want to start on. But one of the things that for me is important is that the issue of the petrol hikes cannot be associated with one solution. Otherwise, so basically, for zonke. So it's important to understand that there are many solutions that can be found. Amongst those, the Portfolio Committee has made particular recommendations, and I don't think they are far from what most of us may agree. One of those is moving rather than scrapping the road accident fund from the fuel price, either like the Minister of Finance had said, that it should form part of social security or form part of social insurance, or it be moved to the Department of Transport. They needed to review the 15% premium on freight, which was introduced in the fuel price to minimize the risk for the risk that was made for the apartheid government. Thirdly, increasing the import share of oil and petroleum products from other African countries in order to minimize shipping costs. Implementing those recommendations will therefore allow South Africans for all walks of life to feel that they are able to mitigate against the fuel hikes. Honorable Deputy Speaker, we must deal with the issue of fuel hikes as a collective, not spontaneously. For an example, what Honorable Mailem has proposed as measure that the ANC government should implement to reduce the burden of fuel hikes on consumers, since he is convinced that the ANC government is unenterprising and not promising, and thus it should be assisted. But South African citizens should become wary of populist calls which emerge from the Milton Friedman's Economic 101 course textbook, that deregulation and competition will provide cheaper petroleum in South Africa. South Africa is a net importer of oil and refined petroleum product, and therefore as a country is susceptible to boom-bust cycles in the market, in which price determination and price outcome are sensitive not only to developments on supply and demand, but also to economic and political shocks. And therefore, added to this is the shipping and insurance costs, which are market related. What is worth pointing out is that South Africa does not have any bargaining power to influence price determination and price outcome at an international refining centers. The truth of the matter is that we are not price determiners. We are price takers as far as the international markets are concerned. Therefore, we should not assume that there is a competitive bidding tender process where the discounting of prices occurs at international refining centers. The country's basic fuel price uses an import parity methodology, which currently takes into account the most obvious fact that the conflict in Ukraine fuels the supply disruption and continues to strengthen the value of the US dollar relative to the South African rand. It is quite important, therefore, that we also acknowledge that the government has introduced the temporary relief on the fuel levy, which is currently amounts to R1.50 per litre, to minimize the burden of the fuel price hikes to the South African consumers. I know some will say it is not enough, and we may all agree that it is not enough, but it is necessary for the benefit and to mitigate against the fuel hikes. It is important to ensure that the issue of the fuel hikes is also exacerbated by the fact that South African motorists are the ones that are always on the receiving end, because the South African economy at large have minimal flexibility in minimizing their dependence on oil refined products like petrol and diesel in the consumption market. It's important also to note that there are many other alternative sources that can be considered, including biomass fuel, which it is something that this CSIR has also raised as a point for consideration. Honorable Speaker, the oil industry is a capital-intensive, low-margin industry driven by high-volume sales for economies of scale. In our country, whose market demand is almost equivalent to the Los Angeles areas, it is not possible to deregulate the market and ensure competition in the normal sense, as is the case with large volume economies like the USA. And therefore, it is important that when we make such consideration, we must be able to ensure that we carry all that is necessary. Lastly, on this matter, Chair, we request that the two ministers, both finance and mineral resources and energy, expedite the investment in refining, as it positively contributes to beneficiation and manufacture, but also as the effect of reducing the impact of the balance of payment in dollar terms for our country. I think it's important to make this last point, that we can't have a one-size-fits-all. The issue of fuel and petrol hikes is a complex matter. By the way, if you look in terms of integrated energy plan, amongst other issues, in order to build your productive sectors of the economy, is the new developments in terms of your electric vehicles. Any comprehensive strategy that does not take the new phenomenon on board, it is flawed. It cannot be comprehensive, because what is in the new in the auto industry is that there are electric vehicles that, by manufacturing, if we were to manufacture or assemble the majority of them in South Africa, it will be something that is not related to the fuel hikes. And therefore, any comprehensive strategy must take that to a longer period. Honorable Speaker, we raise those issues just with one quote again from Sowell. It is hard to imagine a more stupid or more dangerous way of making decisions than by putting those decisions in the hands of people who pay no price for being wrong, open and close quote. We have got a duty and a responsibility that we cannot make any mistake, because the people are looking forward from the leadership of the people's movement. And therefore, we will take responsibility for failures. Hence, we must avoid them now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, honourable members, when the DA removes the ANC from national government in 2024, we will slash the petrol price by R6 per litre. We'll slash it by cutting fuel prices and fuel taxes, and by deregulating the fuel market. We will slash it because we actually care about the people who are struggling to make ends meet. The reality is that not every South African has got a couple of $1 million shoved into a couch at home that will enable them to weather the coming winter of discontent. We care, unlike the Honourable Luzipo, that workers can barely afford the taxi fare to get to work, and those without work can't afford to go out and look for work. Government's petrol price increases have pushed the food prices up dramatically, all because they are greedy, and because they now need to understand that their tax is more important than the food price to ordinary South Africans. They've also driven up that cost because the rail system under the ANC has collapsed entirely, which means that the majority of the food in South Africa is transported by road and therefore goes up when the petrol price goes up. when the DA removes the ANC from national government in 2024, we will slash fuel prices to bring down the cost of food. Yes, Honourable Koornoff, you told us we were dreaming about Tshwane and Joburg and Nelson Mandela Bay and every other municipality where you've been kicked out of office. The DA cares that parents and grandparents have to look into the eyes of hungry children every night.
House Chair, can I
Sorry,
please
ma'am.
call a point of order? My leader needs a little bit of protection because I'm sitting right here and I can't hear him. So if you could just ask the House to have a little bit of decorum, please.
All of you, including in your ranks, have some decorum. Go ahead, Honourable Member.
The DA cares that parents and grandparents have to look into the eyes of hungry children to tell them that there's nothing for supper. The DA cares that school children have to study on empty stomachs, and that millions are suffering from childhood stunting because of the lack of food. And honestly, Honourable Luzipo, your economic platitudes and your jargon mean absolutely nothing to those parents who cannot put food on the table. We will do so because we care about jobs, and we understand that jobs come from a healthy economy and businesses that are thriving and creating jobs. And they are created when you reduce the input costs. When the DA removes the ANC from national government in 2024, we will slash fuel prices because we know, unlike the ANC, that fuel prices affect the poorest of the poor the most. Poor families spend the highest proportion of their salaries on transport and food. Cutting fuel prices will lift millions out of poverty. Fuel prices are high because government slaps on taxes. A full third of the fuel price is taxes that go to government. Taxes that pay for the incapable and corrupt state. 6 rand per litre. 6 rand per litre. That's how much more our citizens are paying for petrol more than countries like Botswana, who have the same problems that the Honourable Luzipo outlined, and they don't slap on the tax because they understand. We need to recognise the urgency of the situation now. We need to slash petrol prices now. And we can afford to do it. We can afford to do it if we get tough on corruption. We can afford it. If we end cadre deployment, we can afford it. If we slash the VIP protection budget, we can afford it. If we close failed state-owned entities, we can afford it. What the ANC can't afford is to keep ripping off ordinary South Africans, because we are gutful of having to pay the price for your corruption. We also need a president in this country who's got a full-time focus on running the country. Not one eye on his business and one eye on his farm. Full-time serving the people of South Africa. The billionaire president can afford to pack up and leave and go anywhere. It's ordinary South Africans who've got no choice. We have to make South Africa work. So if you care about anything at all on the government benches, cut the fuel price. Because if you don't, I would advise you to look at what happened in the Arab Spring. I would advise you to see what is happening right now in Sri Lanka.
Point of order.
And if you don't do it,
Point of
I
order.
can promise you
Yes,
this. In
yes.
2024,
Honourable
the
member.
DA is going to do it for
Yes,
you.
go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes?
Yeah, I just want to check if it's parliamentary to say hurtful.
Yeah, no, Honourable Steenhuisen, that fancy Afrikaans expression is not parliamentary. Don't use it, please. No, Chief Whip, don't use it as well.
Well, I can
Assembly.
tell you, Deputy Speaker, it's a lot more part of polite lexicon than the word the President used at this very podium 2 weeks ago.
No. Two wrongs don't make a right, Honourable Member. No.
Point of order.
Yes, what's your point of order, Honourable Member?
On a point of order, Deputy Speaker, when one looks at that word, it is a colloquial word which means...
No. Honourable Member, you can try that luck with someone else.
I will try it until the cows come home and
Yes, don't. It's unparliamentary and we will rule it unparliamentary. It's not okay in a gentle house like this one. If you start using heartful, then every member here is going to use other similarly fanciful language. It's unparliamentary, just be satisfied. No, no, we are not debating this. It's just out of order. Please, and honorable members, be warned. We will rule you out of order if you use it. There's a honorable members order. Order, honorable members. Order. Order. EFF. Please, honorable members of the EFF, we should have had your name here. Just like the IFP, we don't have your name here. Who's going to come? And similarly, UDM and honorable members of COPE and PAC. Just tell us who's going to debate on your behalf. We would like to name you when we call you. No, 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 no. Why do you speak, member, without being invited? I'm just telling you what we expect of you to do. This is expected of everyone in the House. You don't have to comment on that thing. Just save your opinion. Go ahead, honorable member.
Speaker.
Thank you, Chairperson. South Africa's fuel crisis is not a result of natural forces that are beyond human control. A natural force so big we can only be big, we can only throw up our hands in horror and despair. The simple truth is that South Africa faces big problems because of unaffordable fuel price hikes. This is because ANC ministers and their families, friends and comrades want to steal as much as public money as they can. When former Minister of Energy, Ms. Kubai, admitted that the country's strategic fuel stock was sold in a corrupt secret deal in 2016, the EFF was the only party that said arrest the looters, including Ms. Tina Jumat-Peterson. We said that because we understood that the shifts and changes in geopolitics and international trends. But because Glencore and the corrupt criminal syndicate that operates through bribes and illicit financial flows was one of the beneficiaries of the loot, no one has been held to account. It is the same Glencore that benefited Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa in deals for political leverage. We are not shocked by these fuel price increases because we have warned in the past that the government does not have a practical or believable plan to address the rising cost of living in short and medium term, nor over the long term. To accept the excuse by the government that these increases in petrol, diesel, and paraffin are unavoidable because of crude oil prices and the rand and dollar exchange rate is to accept a collective incompetent government. It is to accept the ANC's corrupt government. It is definitely to an acceptance of the shambolic state of the mismanaged economy as if it is normal. You increase the price of fuel, you increase the price of fruit, the price of bread, the price of vegetables, and prices of all basic necessities. You increase the price of fuel, you increase the price of transport for school learners and workers whose wages have stagnated for years. You increase the price of fuel, you kill small businesses which are already struggling. You increase the price of fuel, you leave households without means to cook and keep warm. More than 2 million families use paraffin to cook and keep warm during winter because they do not have a choice. Even when they know it is highly flammable and toxic, they rely on it and now cannot even afford the only available means within their reach. This is the reality for many workers and poor households. The reality that many of us here with ministerial benefits, parliamentary shuttles, and free flights will not understand. Honorable Chairperson, the temporary reduction in the fuel levy of 150 has brought no meaningful relief to our people. It is a reactionary and desperate attempt to look as if the government has a plan, whereas they are clueless. To resolve the fuel hike price, we must do the following. Fast track the review of fuel prices, and at the center of this should be the poorest, not businesses. We must rebuild and increase strategic fuel stock. We must stabilize the Central Energy Fund, and the fund must be allowed to fund and build state-owned oil refineries. Any advice contrary to this is not honest and is motivated by narrow capitalist interests. It is both foolish and incompetent to depend on more than 60% of fuel imports to meet demand instead of building a reliable refinery industry. We must reclaim and nationalize Sasol. We must build state capacity to turn coal into oil and also increase research and development in the biofuel industry. This government has even been outshined by young people who have started producing their own fuel with all the resources at its disposal. These efforts must be maximized and they must be funded. But we all know, lastly, we must do away with the fuel levy with immediate effect. But we know that a corrupt ANC is neither willing nor able to put any solution into action. The EFF will always be on the side of the workers and the poor, and we will take this fight head on. We know that the ANC president, Mr. Ramaphosa, is busy with money laundering and proceeds of crime on his farms, and he has no business being in government to resolve process.
Honorable member, you are not allowed to say what you've just said without a substantial motion.
Which one am I not allowed to say? Chair?
Listen, honorable member, I'm talking to you. You withdraw that statement immediately.
Which statement am I withdrawing, Chairperson?
The one you said about Mr. Ramaphosa, what you said he did.
I said a lot of things about him. Can you please
withdraw
speak
it.
as well?
If you don't withdraw
I said
it,
a lot of things, Chairperson. Can you
say
please?
what?
I said a lot of things about him. Please just.
Just withdraw. Are you prepared to
What
withdraw?
am I withdrawing?
On a point of
Please
order,
be specific
Speaker.
as to what am I
Deputy
withdrawing
Speaker.
so that I can.
Honorable member, I'm not going
Deputy
to repeat
Speaker,
what
on
you
a point
said.
of order.
You repeat
Deputy
it.
Speaker.
You repeat it.
Deputy Speaker, on a
You
point of
withdraw.
order, there's nothing that
Can you
Commissioner Kwame is going to
please be
withdraw there.
specific?
Honorable
There's
member,
nothing
if
he's
you
going
don't
to
want to
withdraw.
repeat it, you stop talking.
Point of order, Deputy Speaker.
You stop talking if you are not going to withdraw.
Deputy Speaker.
Honorable member, I'm talking to a member here. You wait. I'll give you a chance to speak.
No,
Honorable
I'm
member,
protecting also
withdraw.
my member. I'm protecting
Withdraw,
my
honorable member.
from your unruly behavior.
Honorable member,
Protecting my member from your
Can you
Honorable
please
Kangwini.
specify what exactly
No,
am I
I'm protecting
withdrawing?
my member from your
Honorable
unruly
Kangwini,
behavior.
you are talking without being recognized. You're going to leave this house. You will leave this house. You will leave this house. Honorable member, honorable member, honorable member, you have a choice to withdraw or you go to your seat.
There's
What am
nothing
I
he's going to
withdrawing?
withdraw.
Please be specific.
Okay. Honorable, what did she say?
Please be specific as to what.
Okay,
am I
honorable
supposed to-
member, you don't want to withdraw, you stop talking.
But what am I withdrawing? Can I please be told what exactly?
If
am I
you don't want to withdraw, you are not proceeding. I told you, you choose not to hear, you leave the podium, honorable member.
Can you please be specific?
I
What
told
exactly
you
am I supposed? You said
What you said about Mr. Ramaphosa, the president, you must withdraw.
I have said a lot of things about the president. What
You withdraw
exactly am I
it, if you don't, you
withdrawing?
go.
I have said a lot of things about the president. Which one am I?
You withdraw.
What am I withdrawing?
You are not going to continue. I can assure you of that. I can assure you of that. You are not going to continue. You are not going to continue. Simple.
Deputy Speaker,
Honorable member, go and sit down.
Deputy
You have a
Speaker,
choice. You have it. Honorable members, I don't want your help. Honorable members,
but you're not helping us. We don't know what the member said. We don't know what she's supposed to withdraw.
I said you should leave the podium if you refuse to withdraw what you said.
But what am I withdrawing, House Chairperson?
Honorable members, honorable
Deputy
members,
Speaker. Deputy Speaker, on
I
a point
am
of
not
order.
your conduit for unparliamentary language, and she's going to withdraw. Honorable member, honorable
Deputy
member,
Speaker, can we
get
help
off
you?
from
Can
the
we help
podium
you?
there.
Deputy
You get
Speaker,
off
can we
from the
help you on a
podium.
point of order?
You are not going to proceed.
Deputy Speaker, on a point of order.
What am I withdrawing? Please
Deputy Speaker,
advise
on a
You
point
me
are
of
what
not
exactly I'm
going
withdrawing.
to proceed without withdrawing your statement.
Stop being
You refuse
bully,
to do
Madam
it.
Deputy Speaker.
You are
What's your
not going to
problem?
proceed.
Stop
You know
being
what you
bully.
said.
She's asking
It's
what
your
was she
speech,
withdraw.
it's not mine. And I pointed out what it is that you said. You go ahead and withdraw.
She's not withdrawing anything. She's not withdrawing anything, Madam Deputy Speaker. Stop being bully.
You are wasting your time and our time.
Deputy Speaker, I have
Honorable
not-
member,
I have
this is the
not-
last time I call you. If you don't want to, I'll ask the Sergeant at Arms to remove you.
I did not say I'm not going to withdraw. I asked what exactly am I supposed to
Honorable member, get away from the
You
podium
want
if
to
you
bring us
refuse.
up again now? I'm
You are
asking
not-
a simple question.
You
What
are
is it that I'm
not
supposed to
going
withdraw?
to proceed, honorable member. Please, just get off the... I have...
It's not enough that you
Honorable
bring us up
members,
last week. You want to bring us
honorable
up again.
members.
Tell me what is it that I'm supposed
Honorable
to withdraw
members,
from message?
I have indicated what the member should say in her immediate response. And so she must withdraw that.
We didn't hear
She
you.
must withdraw that. What is unparliamentary is in the rules, and you know it.
Yeah.
I am not going to be a conduit for unparliamentary remarks that you make knowingly, and you want me to repeat them. I am not going to repeat your unparliamentary remarks, and you know them, and if you don't want to withdraw them, then you forfeit your right to consider to speak.
On a point of order, Deputy Speaker.
What's
Paraphrase
your
it
point
for
of
us
order?
then, Deputy Speaker.
What is your point of order?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, you would know per rules. You need to tell the member what she said and what is parliamentary.
Honorable member.
And what she have said.
Honorable
You must
member.
follow the rules to the T.
Honor-
You can't
honorable-
expect. Now you are saying she must withdraw.
Honorable
What does
member.
she withdraw?
Honorable
she
member.
Withdraw was.
Honorable
She withdraw
member.
Was. She withdraw the word was.
Honorable
She
member,
withdraw the word was and she withdraw the word the.
you have finished
Don't
talking
say
now.
that
Take
you
your
must
seats.
withdraw.
Take your seat, honorable member.
Withdraw the.
Honorable member, each one of you here knows the rules. You are knowingly making statements in the House. When I ask you to withdraw them, you withdraw them. Simple.
But please
Simple.
specify what
Unparliamentary remarks.
you say withdraw.
Yes, honorable member. What are you raising, honorable member?
I'm not challenging your ruling, Deputy Speaker.
Honorable member, talk to me, please.
I'm saying to you that I think it is unreasonable for you as the presiding officer not to tell the member what she has to withdraw. This is important as well. It is important as well for the Hansard, because your ruling has to go to the annotated digest of rulings in
Honorable-
unparliamentary language.
Honorable member, I'll tell you, I spoke immediately after this member made mention of the president. Listen to me. Listen to me, honorable member. I spoke immediately after she said it, and I said withdraw that. So she must withdraw that. You will go to Hansard if you
Deputy
want
Speaker.
it.
Deputy Speaker.
That's not true.
Honorable members.
Deputy Speaker,
Yes.
I need to be able
Deputy
to
Speaker.
advise my parliamentary caucus
Yes.
what
Yes.
ruled as unparliamentary.
I call it
Yes.
So they don't repeat it. I can't
Yes.
do that
Yeah,
if it's
okay.
not on the record.
Correct.
What the member has
And
said.
some of us are
Honorable
following
members,
this
honorable
proceedings
members,
very
let
well.
me point out to you, I have made a ruling here.
Aye, man.
I have made a ruling on this matter, and the ruling is that as soon as the honorable member made reference to the president in the way she did, where she stopped, I said to her, withdraw what you're
What
saying
did
about
You
the
don't
president.
even know yourself.
Because
Say,
it is
You don't know,
unparliamentary.
Deputy Speaker. That's why you can't say it. You
Deputy
don't know
Speaker,
what
who
you said
said
yourself.
Do so, which is
You don't
defying
know
the
what is she
authority of the
withdrawing.
chair. She is
Ukalile
breaking an
ke
additional
wena.
rule, and she's
No,
not
man,
going to proceed.
No,
Ukalile
Deputy
honorable
Speaker, you
members,
don't know yourself. What do you
I
want
have
to
made
withdraw?
a ruling
You
on
don't
this
know.
matter, and I'm
You're
not
just
proceeding.
voting. You're
Ruling,
wasting
yeah.
your own time.
Deputy Speaker, but in all fairness, I
Honorable
mean, we
member.
are on the platform.
You get away from the podium. Sergeant at Arms,
But you see, you don't recognize us
Sergeant
from
at
the
Arms,
platform. It's as if we're
talk
not
to
in
the
the house.
member to get off the ruling.
Ah, no, Deputy Speaker. No, man. No. Uyamosha ngomhle.
Honorable member, we will request you to leave the house.
Uyamosha ngoku.
Honorable member, honorable members, order.
There's no
Honorable
order. You're
member,
out of order.
we are refusing.
But you're
Honorable member. Honorable member.
We know all of
You must now leave the house. We are going to rule, honorable member.
Deputy Speaker, we
Honorable
are trying
member.
to help you, sir. We are not trying to degenerate.
Honorable
the
member.
house. We are trying
Please
to
leave the
help
house.
A spokesperson of
Honorable
the
member.
House.
Leave the house.
I'm not a, I'm a member of Parliament, so I have to say when things go, say something when things go wrong. Deputy Speaker,
Honorable member.
I raise my.
You leave.
All I am asking is to be told what I need to
But I
withdraw.
Honorable member, we will leave the house.
Point of order.
For what?
On a point of order, Deputy Speaker.
Deputy Speaker.
Sergeant
Ah,
Arms.
it's okay.
Point of order.
Let's call them.
Yeah,
Point of order, Deputy Speaker.
Point of order.
But this is not Deputy Speaker's house. This is our house.
Hey, when I in man, just sit down.
He's also a member of
Point of order,
Parliament.
Deputy Speaker. Point of order. How?
No. No. The Deputy Speaker is actually bullying the honorable member. And also, we're in the house. We're trying to rise on points of orders. We're not being recognized. It's almost like we're not in the house.
Honorable member, you are going to have to leave the house. Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Man. But this thing, we
No.
are also
Honorable.
Deputy Speaker, but we're also in the house. When we follow these proceedings
Honorable-
virtually, we're also in the
Honorable
house.
member,
When we rise
please
on a
leave the
point
house.
of order, you're supposed to entertain it.
Point of order, Honorable Speaker.
It's not going to happen
Today.
Due respect, Honorable Deputy Speaker. No one.
What are you rising on?
I'm rising on a point of. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I'm rising on a point of order without challenging your ruling. Comrades, can you keep quiet? I'm rising on a point of order, Honorable Deputy Speaker, without engaging on your ruling. But the fact here, the honorable member requests you to explain what is that she must withdraw. She's not refusing to withdraw. I'm sorry to do this to you, but we are just trying to assist because we are all here. Please, Honorable Yes.
Yeah. Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable members. Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Deputy
Who's that?
Speaker.
Yeah. Go ahead, Honorable member. Yeah, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I rise on a point of order, and just to follow the Chief Whip of the majority party, will it not be advisable in the interest of us proceeding, I know it's the last day of our session, that you refer to Hansard and you can rule at some other time? Reconsider your ruling after you've looked at Hansard, and then we can continue with this session. That's possible.
Yeah,
Honorable
member.
Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable Gahube.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the problem here that we have is that this will set a very bad precedent for the House. If we do not have a codified list of words that are deemed unparliamentary, then we will never know not to repeat them. And you refusing to repeat what word the member used is now causing this House to be entirely disorderly, and it will collapse the House. So I am pleading with you, Deputy Speaker, to refer to the specific words that should be deemed unparliamentary for the record purposes, so that we will all know what words to use and what words not to use.
Honorable
Deputy
members,
Speaker.
can I just
Honorable
speak?
Deputy Speaker.
I've heard you.
May I also say something? Yeah. You
Say
didn't hear
something.
all of us.
Where are you? Go ahead.
No, we
Honorable
wanted
members,
to make.
take your seat, settle down. Take your honorable members standing. Honorable Mazzoni, honorable members, take your seats, please. Settle down. Honorable members, order.
Ngathi ukwi-payroll ka-president kodwa Deputy Speaker.
You will be ordered, honorable members.
Deputy Speaker,
Yes, go ahead, honorable member.
I just have an appeal. Even when we called you earlier, we rose on points of orders. We wanted to help the House. We didn't want to disrupt the proceedings of the House. But I want to appeal to you that you treat us the same as those members who are sitting in the House physically. Because when we rise on points of orders on the platform here, it's because we want to help you, or we also want to help the proceedings of the House. I mean, it's unfair that we rise on points of orders, raise hands, try to interject, and we get ignored in the process of you arriving or making a decision. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you, honorable member, for raising that. We will coordinate better with the front desk so that I can see when you have your hand up on the screen there. We will do that. Honorable members, these are my reasons for not repeating what was said earlier on. I will repeat it, and it is for the last time it happens. And I'll tell you why. I'm aware this is a deliberate intention to say things and give the impression you don't remember when you know exactly what you said. I am talking, honorable members, I am talking, and I gave you an opportunity to speak. Breaking the rules and playing clever by half is unacceptable. Is unacceptable. This honorable member in her remarks, she said, Mr. Ramaphosa, the president, is busy with money laundering. This is the expression she used. Honorable members, you cannot make such a statement in the House without a substantive motion. And if you don't want to withdraw, honorable member, I have already ruled on you anyway. So you withdraw, you have a choice. Honorable member.
What is the other choice, Deputy Speaker?
Honorable member, you are playing games now. I have told you what you said. If you don't withdraw, you please go, and I'm not repeating this.
It's fine, I will not withdraw.
Go ahead, yeah. You leave the House. Honorable Shangwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. It is a matter of public record.
Leave the House. You can't sit. Honorable member, you can't sit there. You must leave. No. You must leave, honorable member. Sergeant at arms, please escort the member out of the House.
Point of order, Deputy Speaker.
Yeah.
On a point of order, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker.
Order, honorable members, order.
Uthe makahlale phansi akhange uthi makaphume. Iruling enjani le tshintshayo? Hayi siyababona abanedollars.
Honorable member.
Abanedollars ezipokothini siyababona.
Don't complicate things by pointing at me. Please leave. Honorable member Madokwe, I asked you to leave. Honorable members on your feet, you either settle down or leave with her. You have a choice.
Speaker, point of order, please. Speaker.
Who's speaking?
Speaker, point of order. Speaker.
Honorable Madokwe, please leave the House.
Speaker, point of order, please, Speaker.
No, please. Let me finish with the member, please, respectfully. The House must be respected and its rules. And if we are not able to enforce any rules in the House, there's no point in us sitting here.
Speaker.
So we request the member to comply with the rulings of a presiding officer.
But Speaker, you said there in front. She must leave the podium and go sit down. Now you're saying she must leave the House.
Honorable member, I said the member must leave the House. She refused to withdraw and she must leave the House. You can't debate this ruling that I made.
Leave the podium. We didn't say she must leave the house. You said leave the podium. We didn't say leave the house, Speaker.
Honorable
You are
member,
sleeping today, there, Speaker.
honorable member,
No,
you
are
can't
sleeping.
debate a ruling that I made. You are violating the rules of the House. Leave, Honorable Madokwe, please leave. You are obstructing the House. You are now obstructing the House. Honorable member, leave. Sicela uhambe, Honorable Madokwe.
The ANC people are useless.
Honorable Hlengwa, please proceed. Honorable Hlengwa.
Chair, yeah, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Deputy Speaker, I think.
Okay, all right.
Deputy Speaker.
Yes.
I think until order is restored, it will be difficult to hear Honorable Slangwa.
Yeah, no, I did say that, Honorable Member, please. Thank you very much. Honorable Litie, Honorable Muntueli. Okay, you giving up. It's all right, thanks. Okay, go ahead, Honorable Slangwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. It is a matter of public record that the Inkatha Freedom Party has been pleading with government for years now to provide relief to ordinary South Africans in relation to the ever-increasing fuel prices. We have written letter upon letter, amongst others, and in July 2018 to the then Speaker Baleka Mbete to request an urgent debate calling for the suspension of fuel levies as we are debating today. This request was rejected, resulting in a protracted exchange of correspondence until the debate was scheduled. We launched the Suspend Fuel Levies campaign that same year, followed by an open letter to the President in October 2018, echoing the cries of South Africans calling for an urgent reprieve. I will remind the President now, as I did in my letter to him, of an ANC statement of 16 September 1993 titled ANC Demands Suspension of Petrol Price Increase, which said the following: the ill-considered and uncaring decision to increase the petrol price only confirms the NP government does not have the interests of the majority of South Africans who are poor and struggling desperately to make ends meet. At heart, now is the time to establish the tradition of a government that cares for and consults with its citizens. It is both ironic and tragic that as opposition parties today and every other day since, we now find ourselves echoing this same petition, and that the ruling party, who have the means to make a lasting difference, consistently choose to ignore the plight of the poor. During the almost 4 years since that open letter, the IFP has continued to unfailingly call upon government to review the fuel price structure, in particular the excessive levies that form almost a third of the cost of a litre of petrol. Most recently, in March 2022, after we again called on government to suspend fuel levies with immediate effect, temporary relief was offered by the Minister of Finance and has since been extended to 2 August 2022. Unfortunately, this was merely a smokescreen. As of 3 August, the fuel levy will be reinstated in full, with the public again left to carry not only the increased fuel cost, but the rapidly rising cost of food and other necessities that accompany every fuel hike. However, according to a 31 May joint media statement by Treasury and DMRE, it seems another decrease is on the cards, and I quote, after a review and a consultation by DMRE, it is proposed that the basic fuel levy price also be decreased by 3 cents per litre in the coming months. This is a complete insult to the people of South Africa, particularly one considers that billions of rands that are fettered away each and every year by government departments. The Road Accident Fund, which is funded through...
All right, and so we come out of that parliamentary debate where they're discussing the price of fuel. A lot of drama ensued when an EFF member spoke about President Ramaphosa being involved in money laundering. The Deputy Speaker took exception to that and ruled that she should either withdraw the statement or leave the House. She refused to make a move until such time he specified what exactly she had said that was wrong. And there was a lot of mayhem which you'll catch up on about no doubt later.